Here I am in my studio. It's part studio, part workshop now. And that's Rakan, Wabanse, Watwaba, and Kotriske, the deluge. There are pieces that I have done and I'm still working on. For example, that poster, an early Jamaican proverb. The willing horse then saggle the most. In other words, it's the hardest worker that they give more and more work to. Here are ideas that I'm working with. For example, this is a sculpture concept that I'm going to have a maquette made of somebody that should be honored in Washington, D.C. to honor the Powhatan Confederacy. That's research of the John White watercolors made in 1585. And one thing I'm working on with my wife Rose, we work together quite often. This is going to be a turtle story. That's an actual turtle shell that I got at a powwow, and the claws. But these are going to be a totem with the turtle on the top and the bottom. It's about a flying turtle. And this is my spirit, tree spirit. I'm doing an homage to the trees, as in this composition here on the floor. It's going to be framed in a wall piece, and I'm putting the concepts together. And here's another piece of the tree that was actually cut down in my yard here in DC. It's comes from a very sacred tree. It's a black walnut tree or hickory family, and it's over 100 and odd years old, I'm sure, and was cut down and to make way for a building. So I'm going to make a semi to honor her, as in the vines that were out there outside, also wisteria vines, and part of a cigar tree. That's the common name of it. It's a cross section that I did from the trunk or the branch of the tree, and I'm in the process now of carving the breasts that will go here. One, that's the left breast here, and this is going to be the right breast. This is the other piece of the same piece of wood that I'm going to polish and place on. Actually, this is the left breast. The other one was the right. Okay, from the same piece of wood. So this is to honor tree spirits. I have a number of pieces in the basement that I'm working on. For example, when this piece was green, I made it into a circle. Circle represents femininity. It also represents reincarnation and the cycle of life. It's a very sacred symbol to native folks in this hemisphere. That's why you see people in the dance circle. Here, for example, and I've been doing circles for a long time without realizing the importance of them. This, for example, is an early piece when I was working with welded bicycle parts and etched and painted and inlaid plexiglass. This was to Rastafari, Haile Selassie, when my older brother became a Rastafarian, and I had to do some research on the Rastafarian religion, because like most Jamaicans, didn't know much about the history except what my brother told me. Jah Rastafari, the Lion of Judah, Rastafari, Haile Selassie. He is the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. And Ethiopian Coptic cross here. This is actually the first piece is a mask. And the second piece is of an Ethiopian cross, the oldest continuous religion on the planet, and in Ethiopian Coptic Church. And here is, I'm going to paint this gold. My wife Rose recommended that. As she recommended that, I put color into this piece here, because Babance is from the hurricane. It originate in Africa and come into the Caribbean annually. And this is my equestrian, actually based on something that my wife again found in the newspaper after I had done this piece. I still have my horses there, my mule on top of a horse, riding a horse. And here is my equestrian copy of the newspaper article. I found it interesting that it had some similarities. Now, these pieces here, this piece is a guardian spirit, from the guardian angel, Ethiopian concept, and I'll show it to you in a minute. This is one part of a triptych, and this is to the ultimate mother, Isis, or Ast, for the protection of the children in South Africa who were being murdered during the apartheid period in the 1980s. This is Rose's piece, my wife's piece, her Ethiopian homage piece. And this is the other part of the triptych. This is Marcus Garvey. These three guardian spirits were placed in an exhibition at Fonda del Sol, and we came and found somebody had put coins down in front of them. It looked very ethereal when placed together. Here's Marcus Garvey, a button, and the images that represent him. That's a Benin mask, and the red, the gold, and the black. And this is one of my prints. In doing research in the Caribbean, I came across a story, the origin story of the Taino people and other people. They're twin caves, and this one is of the Casibagua, where you have the iguana boina. Iguana, the lizard that represents the sun, as it is in gold there, and the boina, the black rain cloud. So the rain cloud and the sun represent the source of life, iguana boina. And this is the watchman, he who does not blink, was placed in front of the cave. So those images, the iguana and the boina, represent the cave from which human beings came, and meaning the Taino. The other cave, all of us who are not Taino came from that cave, the twin caves. And this is he who does not blink. He was placed as a watchman to keep the people from coming out of the cave, because the sun would turn them into rocks. So rocks are those people who came out and are now not inanimate objects as we tend to believe in our Western belief system, but everything has life. Trees have spirits and they have life. This is another silkscreen print, as this one was, but this is done on handmade paper, and it represents the island of Guanin. Guahayona, the shaman in his canoe, is the first shaman who brings tobacco, sacred tobacco, to the people. And he takes the woman away from their homes, from their men, and say, hey, I'll give you much guayo, which is a chewing tobacco, a green leaf tobacco mixed with a salty ash from an algae. And when you chew it, it gives you a buzz. So I use these images of Atabe from Puerto Rico as, get that light up there, as the images of the island of woman, Matanino. And then he takes them, then he leaves them there and says, I'll be back. But he doesn't come back actually. And he goes on to the island of Guanin of Gold. And then later on I'll show you one downstairs where he goes to La California. This is more of a cartoon-like image of Brabantse. Now this is not displayed necessarily like that, but I found my photograph from when I had this piece. This was my African period with sculpture, and this is Olokun, the Yoruba god of the sea. Olokun has two mudfish as the legs, and he has, this is his symbols, his swords. Well, his sword here, and he's holding image of a crocodile. So that was for a catalog that one of the photographers at Howard University took. I think it must have been Jarvis Grant who did that when I taught at Howard in the art department. Now this is the phoenix rising, ascending, or she descending, depends on what you feel. And this is my Atabe, the Virgin Mother of Yukahu, the god of the sea, and she is the goddess of childbirth and fresh water. You can see the imagery there. This is from a ball court in Puerto Rico, in the Caribbean, where the Spanish first saw a rubber ball and a ball game. That originated in Central America among the Olmecs and influenced all games that have teams. It's one of the first team sports actually, and played by a ball, a rubber ball. So all rubber ball games come from the Olmec, the rubber people, as Olmeca means. And here is Atabe, one of the stelae around the ball courts in Puerto Rico, and there's a lot of symbolism there. Her vagina actually is the beak of a woodpecker, and her navel is the eye of the woodpecker, and those lines coming down from the side represent the water, fresh water coming from the mountains, and she has the moon as earrings. A lot of symbolism there, and she's seated like a frog. A frog represents not only reincarnation, but represents the movement of life from water, fresh water, to air breathing, like a tadpole, and then is a water breather, fresh water breather, and then becomes a frog, air breather, like babies do in the amniotic fluid in the womb. Now this is Wahayona in sculptural form, a little bit larger than life size, and as you can see, it's made from slats of wood that this is maple wood that I cut down from a tree in Columbia, Maryland, in the backyard, sliced up and constructed him with his symbols. I have to put this cedar on it because these moths love to eat these macaw feathers, and I have to keep them away. And here is the detail. His face is made from composite wood wood glued together and then carved, and then the teeth in the traditional style of the Taino gnashed teeth made from shell. Wahayona. His name means our pride. And it's a story about be careful about being too proud, being prideful. Now this is part 3 of the guardian angel or the guardian spirit, from which this came. This was the inspiration. Ethiopian guardian angels found in their churches. So when they were killing the kids in South Africa, I made these 3. This is Harriet Tubman. 3 important people in the concept of guarding human beings and saving people. So hers is done in red, white, and blue, and with Yoruba bronze. Actually, this is Benin bronze imagery and stars representing America. And here it is, she with her gun and her wings. Actually, the wings disappeared in the basement, so I'm making new ones, and this is what I had to do. Cut out cardboard template, okay, and then it's going to go here. It's going to be here, the plexiglass is going to be the plexiglass here. I'll just sit better down here. And this is drawing on the other piece, or the other wing, that is going to be etched, back painted in gold. I ordered it because we have the virus now, and I'm not going to go to art supply store to pick up anything in person. So the paint and my etching tool is supposed to be in the mail. Here is a plexiglass piece, and on that side has her wings, and this side has her other wing. So it should have a similar feel to the other one. As a matter of fact, the concept of using gold on these pieces, this one, so when I get my gold paint, that's going to be painted, and these wings on Isis, or Ast, as the Egyptians called her. Isis, I think, is Greek, but she is Ast, with her symbols, and the Ankh, all made from bicycle parts, and then the etched plexiglass inlaid with a key, the key to life. And here she is with her wings, guardian angel style. That is going to be back painted in gold, and the designs, feathers, and all the designs going down to her base. Okay, and that is essentially that over there. Now, this is a manuscript that I am in the process of finally editing. I got it professionally edited, and now I'm making the corrections, and then I'll send it off. It's going to be part 2 of this book. This is a trilogy, part of a trilogy. A Nancy story based, but this is the Nancy's son, who I call Tiki Tiki. Okay, and he goes in search of his wayward father, and he runs into different folkloric stories in the Caribbean, because he is in Jamaica, down here, Yamaye, and then he goes to Haiti, Bohio, and then he goes off to La Florida and runs into a Seminole who had seen his father, Anansi, come by. And this is the story that's being edited now. Final edit. And this is Anansi. He was done in the 1980s, whereas my comic strip was done in 1971, started out in 1971. And this one is the last in the series that did not get published. It was going to be about the Maroons. Similar to the Seminoles, the word maroon comes from cimarrones, means wild or high mountain, cima, and marrones. So this English coined the word maroon from marrones or cimarrones, the first people to escape and leave Spanish ranches in Jamaica and Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and Haiti, to go up in the mountains, live free. And this is Anansi's story about the Maroons and some important people in the Second Maroon War. But here is Anansi the spider. And he is made from paper mache. And I made it to be articulated, in other words, he moves. Okay. And I made it from modeling clay first, each section, the head, the torso, the arms, and the legs. And made a mold out of plaster of Paris, cast it with instant paper mache, they call it. Sanded it down, painted it a number of times, and there you go. And then made a shirt for him with African cloth. Now here is the other piece, a smaller ragdoll version that I made, using the silkscreen method for his facial features. Sewed him together. You can see what he looks like, and I turn him around. Here he is, with his abdomen sticking out the back there, as in spider form, a Spider-Man. In other words, a man, Kwaku Anansi was turned into a Spider-Man by his father, Enyame, the sky god from Ghana, the Asante people. And we got those stories in the Caribbean. And in the United States, it became Aunt Nancy stories among the Sea Island people of Georgia, Florida, South Carolina. Now, this story is based on one of the comic strip stories there that I wrote, and I turned it into book form. And my son, Alexi, helped me to publish it. So here is Anansi starting. It was in black and white, actually, just like this was, but I colorized it. And Anansi, Osebo the leopard, is his main enemy. And Anansi, as usual, gets into trouble and gets caught up in the slave trade, gets captured in a medicine bag. And this essentially tells about the enslavement of Africans from Angola who came to North America, came to my wife's ancestral area, actually, down there in Jamestown, Virginia, the Pamunkey territory. Not only Pamunkey, but the Powhatan Confederacy. The Pamunkey are the leading nation in the Powhatan Confederacy. And this story ends with Anansi being told that he has to go to the Americas to be the comforter of the people. And so Anansi, not really wanting to go, but he is forced to go and help the people survive the evils of enslavement. So Nancy here ends up, ta-da, being the comforter of not only Ashanti, or the Ashanti, but he also becomes the comforter of the other nations, the Akim, the Benin, the Fanti, the Fulani, the Igbo, the Mandingo, and all the other people, the Yoruba, all the other people were brought to the Americas, and he becomes the descendants become the masters of the land. Here are judges. Here they start out working in the fields, but become, and that's how that story ends. Okay, and so I won't give away the ending, but you can get this book on Amazon.com. It's $30 odd. I want to try to get it cheaper, but that's that particular story. And here is, oops, that book that fell back there was The Tangled Web, and it's a book that I'll put it on my website. And this is the story of his son who goes looking for him. Tiki tiki. But this book is a lot cheaper, but you can also get it, like the Nancy story, you can buy it for less than what the book costs. You can buy it in digital format. There he is, Tiki Tiki, going on the island of the dead of the Guayaba, where we get the word guava from. Guayaba with his symbol, the guava berry, the sweetness of life. And he sees the spirits, which are bats, like bats hanging from the ceiling of the cave. Okay, that's Wabanse, as she picks him up and throws him to hang out with Anaconda, his girlfriend, Anaconda. Yeah, here he is in a hammock, and he's hanging out with her. But I won't tell you how it ends, but Anaconda has a tragic ending in real life. So that is where I hang out and continue to work during this very difficult period of the virus. Keep myself busy.